I'm Judge Jeanine MOPPED. Thanks for being with us tonight. First up, my opening statement. As President Trump stops the treasonous bleeding and leaking in the White House, yet another stellar left-wing progressive California Democrat has flipped her lid. Take a look at this from California Representative Barbara Lee. Quote, by putting General John Kelly in charge, President Trump is militarizing the White House and putting our executive branch in the hands of an extremist. Will someone please tell me why it is that ever since Donald Trump became president, you Democrats have lost your minds and are in a constant state of psychotic rage? Militarizing the White House? Are you crazy? You guys are the ones who openly contemplated blowing up the White House. You leftists are the ones destroying property and attempting to burn down buildings to prevent us from exercising our First Amendment free speech rights. So now, elected Congresswoman Lee, appropriately from Berkeley and a card-carrying member of the Progressive Caucus, has the unmitigated goal to trash the highest-ranking American military officer to lose a child in the post-9/11 war on terror, who's also the recipient of the Distinguished Service Medal, the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Legion of Merit, and countless others during his more than 40 years in the Marine Corps, where he rose to the rank of a 4-star general. You know, Miss Lee, I bet you didn't know that General Kelly's storied career in the military was so respected that he was even appointed by your former leftist Iran-loving leader, Barack Obama, as the head of the U.S. Southern Command. And General Kelly has done such extraordinary work in the short time as head of Homeland Security that there is an actual decrease of almost 70% of illegals crossing our border. So who is this Congresswoman Barbara Lee? A patriotic American? A diligent civil servant working on our behalf? Guess again. She was the only member of Congress, to vote no on the use of military force against terrorists after the September 11th attacks in 2001. The final vote, 420 to 1. She was the one. And her reasoning, quote, it was a blank check to the president to attack anyone involved in the September 11th events anywhere in any country without regard to our nation's long-term foreign policy. She adds, I could not support such a grant of war-making authority to the president. I believe it would put more innocent lives at risk. So, Barbara, what are we supposed to do? Bury our loved ones and turn the other cheek and wait for them to hit us again? And Barbara, your legislative efforts are just as popular as your vote on the Defense Authorization Act. You once actually put up a member of the Communist Party to name a post office after. And in a world and a Congress where the naming of a post office is so easy that it never fails, your recommendation was the only time that the naming of a post office was actually defeated in Congress. Now, I know you're from California and represent the Berkeley area, but I'm worried all that pot smoke in the air out there has scrambled your brains. Barbara, your kind of crazy puts all Americans at risk. And as we face a nuclear-powered North Korea, Iran, and others who want to destroy this great nation, there is no better person, no better leader, no one more knowledgeable to help the president run the West Wing of the White House than General John Kelly. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter, #JudgeJeanine. Joining me now with reaction to all the breaking news of the day, Congressman Darrell Issa, a member of the House Oversight, Judiciary, and Foreign Affairs Committee. All right, good evening, Congressman. Do you know this woman?
I do, Judge. I was one of those people that got to vote no on that postal naming some years ago. You can't make these things up. You really can't, Judge.
Well, tell me about her. She's from the Berkeley area?
She is, and she reflects the values of that region, or at least one portion of it. Look, the term extreme is bantered around. I think she would know about extreme on the left. What she doesn't know and doesn't realize is that Secretary Kelly, formerly General Kelly, soon to be Chief of Staff Kelly, is one of those unusual people that can rise above partisan politics so superbly that both the left and the right, except for the far extremes, respect him, support him, consider him a superb choice. He was not controversial in successes as a 2, 3, and 4-star general. He has not been controversial in executing and enforcing the law as it's written during his time as Homeland Secretary. And I'll tell you, when he comes to organize the White House to make it work for the president and for the administration's success, he won't be controversial except by those who want to see the administration fail.
And let me ask you this, you know, to put the White House on track, I mean, that suggests that Reince Priebus was the wrong.
Well, you know, one of the challenges is if you want to put somebody in charge of a dozen cabinet officers and have those egos and those very successful people, governors, very successful people, top people in business, and tell them, you get to the president through me. I will take care of your problems, and in cases, I will save the president time so that he can do what he needs to do. You know, Reince was unable to do that. He was unable to intercept those people problems without using up what little, you know, the president was working triple time. With this man, those cabinet officers respect the fact that they will go to the general first. He will probably take care of 99% of the problems, and that will make this administration more effective, which is the reason all the way back with Dwight David Eisenhower, this position has belonged to strong, successful, respected people like James Baker and others.
Let's talk about Scaramucci, Anthony Scaramucci and the dust-up. Now you smile. I assume that you know Anthony, as do I. What's your take on that?
He's a good friend.
He is a good friend.
Look, he's just like Secretary Kelly. He's a blue-collar kid from a working family. He grew up in the rough and tumble, tough work. Yes, he's a Harvard graduate, but not through the front door because Daddy's name was on it. Yes. He's earned everything over the years, and he plays tough. And in many ways, he is exactly like the man from Queens, President Trump. He tells it like it is. He doesn't pull punches. He believed he was done wrong by Reince, and he said so to somebody who knew it was off the record and took advantage of him. But having said that, you notice that he did not walk away from his comments. He said, yeah, I said it, big you-know-what deal.
Well, and not only that, he said, you know what, I'll refrain in the future. He never apologized. And, you know, it's typical Scaramucci, and I agree. I mean, you know, I know him. I love the guy. I think he's a great guy. He's a straight shooter. I think he's who the president needs. But, you know, there were some people who said, you know what, if you're going to be in charge of communications, you got to know if you're on or off the record. Now, if this reporter actually didn't respect that, then that's a problem. But I got to tell you something, Congressman. There's one thing, and I've said it before, this reporter in the article said, quote, unlike other Trump advisors, he never heard Scaramucci say a bad word about the president. And that was very depressing to me, because that meant not only are his advisors saying bad things about him, but there needs to be a total sweep, and I suspect more is coming. What do you think?
Well, I'm sure there's more that's coming. The fact is, Anthony loves the president. He sees a person that is so much like him in his drive and his passion to help the American people. And he's truly 100%. In Washington, I hate the term 110%. He's 100% committed to the president being successful. And a lot of people in the White House so far have not fit that mold. They've had their own agenda. And it's the reason that Secretary Kelly and Anthony Scaramucci, their job is to clean up those leakers who cared more about their own agenda.
Right, exactly. Quickly, does Scaramucci go through Kelly?
No, he's going to have the direct ear of the president because it's two different jobs.
Got it.
Those 12 secretaries have policy to things. Scaramucci has to communicate.
All right, Congressman Darrell Issa, thanks so much for being with us. And joining me now with more reaction to the latest staff shakeup at the White House and much more, former deputy campaign manager for President Donald Trump and Fox News contributor David Bossie. How are you, David?
I'm great, Judge. How are you tonight?
I am well. Could you have predicted what happened this past week in the West Wing?
Well, I think the writing was on the wall, Judge, as many of us saw that there was going to be a change. Did I see General Kelly getting the job? Not necessarily.
Okay, so now we know General Kelly, he understands chain of command. I mean, when I was DA, my chief assistant was a two-star general, taught me about chain of command, and nobody went around that chain of command. But if with General Kelly, then the position of Homeland Security is now open, and there's talk of Attorney General Jeff Sessions filling that position. Do you think that that's a good idea?
Oh, I think Attorney General Sessions would make a spectacular Secretary of Homeland Security. He is incredibly passionate about those issues that are first and foremost at the top end of those job requirements there. It's something that General Kelly's done an incredible job at, driving border crossings down, securing the border, getting the wall ready to be built, and many other issues that the Secretary of Homeland Security needs to do. Look, I think that the Attorney General is one person. I think Tom Bossert, who is... I love
Tom Bossert.
Tom, who's the Homeland Security advisor to the president in the White House, and is a special guy, a very talented guy, is also somebody that I think should be considered. And there's a host of others that could take that job, and I think that the president's going to add a quality person to his team.
Okay, so you move Jeff Sessions out, which is a great resolution. Then you bring somebody in who is Attorney General, who then oversees Mueller and the special counsel and that investigation. I mean, it's brilliant. Now,
it could solve a bunch of problems all at once.
That's right. And let's talk about Scaramucci, the dust-up. You worked with Anthony as well.